Hello, everybody. I'm Jeff Brooks. I'm the leader of West Berkshire Council, and this is Ask the Leader. We have a lot of questions in from the public, and we will be taking some in flight tonight during the next hour. And my assistant here, Martin, he'll just come into shot for a moment. Will draw my attention to questions that might come in either as a result of what I've said or trigger something new. This is our third one of these, and it's another way of getting people's their ability to ask a question and get an answer. We do that within our council meetings as well, our executive meetings, our full council meetings. But this one was added in to give people the ability to say, why does something work in such a way or not? So let's see where we get to. Tonight, we've got questions. I'm going to start on highways questions and potholes. And of course, the state of our roads, which I'm going to be saying are a lot better than many areas in the country, is something people notice all the time. Everybody travels somewhere around the district. Everybody uses our roads. So it's high in their awareness. If you don't have children at school or grandparents who might be in care, then you're not really using those services, which actually are very good. So the questions tonight are around flooding, around travel, around waste and recycling, as you would normally expect, housing and the economy. So let's start with highways. And you'll see me reading. That's because I can't keep everything in my head, but clearly I try to be more conversational about how we respond to people's questions. I'm going to go through some broader points about roads and potholes and then pick up people's questions. So, a couple of minutes on uh, the fact that at this time of year, we've had potholes forming much more quickly and more frequently than in the past is largely due to the repeated wet and cold weather cycles, and we have had it very wet indeed. This causes rapid deterioration of older road surfaces. People don't necessarily know that there's about 1,300 kilometres of roads in West Berkshire, and we are resurfacing maybe 65 kilometres a year. I think that was the what we did last year. So clearly, you can understand that's going to take quite a while to resurface all the roads. But of course, as soon as you resurface them, they don't need doing again. And in fact, the more we do of that, the less potholes are likely to come up as well. So there is a bit of a virtuous cycle about that. Um, but this is a national pattern where other pressing financial demands on the council have meant over years, councils have not spent as much on roads as they used to. But we do carry out lots of routine inspections, and the frequency varies depending on the types of roads. Obviously, busy A roads are inspected more often, quiet roads less so, and that's in line with national guidance, but makes sense as well. Some routes are checked monthly, some quarterly, others every 6 months. Defects can develop in between inspections. Members of the public are our eyes and ears as well. We don't rely only on the public, but our report a problem function on our website is very well used. And I'll be talking about why we do a short term repair as opposed to a long term repair. We do this based on criteria. Are they dangerous and need to be carried out quickly? But it gets difficult to do a full repair if the weather is not good, it's a busy road, you can't just turn up. You have to actually get yourself to a position where the highways department can come in. They might have to put traffic lights, one-way system of traffic, and that traffic management, specialist equipment. They need it to be dry so that these new pothole can be done properly, uh, as opposed to the temporary ones, which people say to me, they don't look very good, but they do a job for a period of time. We don't rely only on residents to report potholes. We've got routine inspections, 24/7 emergency cover, and much more sophisticated condition survey technology with AI on vehicles of our own that drive around the district, picking up defects in our road system. I'm giving you a broader understanding, I think, before we go into individual pothole cases, where you get an understanding of how we manage the roads. We are always trying to improve, and we reduce the depth threshold for action on a pothole from 50 millimeters to 40 millimeters, meaning more potholes are being addressed and fixed. More, around 20% more potholes now qualify repair sooner than they would have done. So that's something we positively did to say you've got to have some criteria when is a pothole, but we reduced that criteria. We have invested an increased investment in resurfacing and drainage. The long-term answer is not just more patching, but as I said, resurfacing worn-out surfaces. And all councils get a government grant of a number of millions of pounds for roads. Some councils don't put any money to top that up at all. We do. We take some of your money, your council tax, and we put it into road repairs as well as the government grant. And some councils have elected not to do that. So, we're holding out to make our roads as good as they can be. After years and years and years of degradation to a degree in the maintenance. So I'm going to turn to some specific points on roads. And Aaron from Beach Hill, my first question up I'm taking tonight, he talks about why won't the potholes and poor surface of my road be repaired in RG72AY? That's his postcode. His car bottoms out every time he drives on it. We've looked this up, Aaron, and it's not a road that we are responsible. It's a private road. So you'll need to contact the landowner to establish who's responsible for carrying out the repairs. When we receive a pothole report, it's assessed by an engineer, given a priority based on defect criteria as set out in our highway safety inspection procedures. Not all potholes actually meet the criteria. They're not deep enough. They're not big enough. You almost look at the size of a pizza box in terms of what size a pothole might qualify. But it also depends on the danger it presents and the road type. Main routes have priority over more rural routes. I said that earlier. But, Aaron, you need to talk to the landowner who owns that road and find out. But it doesn't look like it's a road we're likely to adopt, sir. Hugh from Hungerford. I've had a claim for vehicle damage on a claim number that he gives us. It was refused. And we do look at, when dealing with this, we do have criteria to establish whether we're liable or not. I can't speak generally, Hugh, about your case. I'm going to look into it. But even though part of the highway may need repair, it doesn't infer liability that our road has caused the damage. I'm not saying it didn't, because I don't know all the details of your case, Hugh. You say Mike from the Highway Division met you on site and agreed it was a danger. The piece of road was inspected in July 25, and Mike took some photos. So I'm going to get my assistant here, Martin, who's our communications manager, to remind me about your case, Hugh. I know that there are a lot of claims, and not all of them satisfy the legal criteria, not set by West Berkshire, but set nationally, of when is a claim reasonable. I'm not saying yours isn't for a moment. An Aldermaston resident says, why does it take so long for potholes to be repaired? So we do send somebody out to do an inspection, and a crew do go out and part repair. So we cold fill, what they call cold fill potholes, based on a risk assessment that they're an immediate danger or hazard until a permanent repair can take place. So these cold fill potholes are guaranteed for 6 months. And I know some people say to us they don't last that long. They particularly if we repaired them when it is cold and wet, they have less chance of being successful then. And so we come out and do another temporary repair. It's a difficult task to get to a point where you've got dry weather, you can take access and possession of that part of the road and fix it properly. So the reported problem should get the temporary fix done if it's dangerous, if it meets the depth criteria and the size criteria very quickly. We are constantly checking that the temporary ones are as good as they can be. As I say, based on certain criteria in terms of the weather, which can affect it. On Aldermaston resident, if a reported pothole is due to be repaired, why can't the crews use a bit of common sense? And if there are similar potholes merely inches from the one being repaired, why are these also not rectified? And that's so logically sensible, isn't it? And it may be that some adjacent to the main pothole that's been reported do not meet the defection criteria, or where possible, they do fix these defects, that they meet the defect criteria while they're on site. So I'm not saying it's never happening, and the logic of it is very sensible. I believe, there was a post that said we're proactive. You questioned that, this resident. So again, we'll check how often that happens. People don't necessarily know. It's not council employed workers who go out and fix the roads. We have an engineering company called Volker Highways who repair the roads. They do the actual work. We commission the work to them, and we're constantly inspecting how well they do. So it's a process of being vigilant. You help us do that, and I'm grateful that you're flagging these things up. I hope I'm giving some assurance that it's not black and white. There are certainly cases where our road Volker themselves, the highways people, will fix adjacent potholes if they think they meet the defect. Another Aldermaston resident talks about an issue with a roundabout on the A4/A340 junction at Padworth. We all know it. It's a busy roundabout. And he talks about the road surface on the north side of the roundabout has deteriorated to such an extent there's a deep groove forming, reported numerous times. So it's part of that roundabout being on a busy A4 with the A340 intersection. It's part of a monthly highway safety inspection. Monthly. The inspectors arrange for repairs for any defects which are identified during the inspection. We are aware that the condition of this roundabout is deteriorating. An engineer has specifically been tasked with inspecting and arranging permanent repairs as required. We undertake annual surveys of the network, and then and this is by vehicles driving up and down them, looking at the state of the road, doing tests on the surface. This is quite sophisticated equipment, and we then prioritize repair. Now, this one at Padworth, I've used it a lot myself. You can tell that there is work going on now to come up with a plan to improve it. So again, we'll be watching that, and you should be seeing work going on in there in the near future. Matt from Purley, there's quite a few here actually. I'd like to know why, even though we've been reporting abandoned cars, blocked drains, and potholes in Purley on Thames, they've not been actioned over the past 2 months. Not all reported potholes meet the criteria. I keep saying that, but it is a fact. You have to have some criteria, defect criteria, before you decide that needs fixing. So not all reported potholes are repaired. I know you're going to say to me, well, of course, they'll get worse. Yes, that comes to the prevention. So we talk about prevention. Prevention is in resurfacing. not just jumping on every pothole that appears. There has to be some criteria, the 40mm depth I talked about earlier. So we do prioritize them, and we require inquiry numbers from the online problem reporting system to be available to provide the status and progress of specific inquiries. The location in question in Purley Village Lane, adjacent to the primary school. That's the one I believe Matt is talking about. This work is programmed for the Easter holidays. We're 2.5 weeks away from that. Work was prioritised to clear highways flooding on the blind bend on St Mary's Avenue to the east of this site first. That was deemed to be the greater risk. Open inquiries at the location, but these will be closed today and the residents will be contacted. Further works planned for the bus stop at Purley Rise and works at New Hill and St Mary's Avenue. So that's an absolute precise answer to your question around some of those areas in Purley. Drainage maintenance wise, all known gully assets are on the cyclical cleansing program. What does that mean? Each asset attracts a frequency based on defined risk of what the outcome will be of the drain not being cleared. The frequencies range between 6 months to 4 years. Gullies are reviewed following each cleansing to see if adjustments are needed. We are hot on this, and some people may not remember or have been living here locally when we had significant floods in Thatcham in 2007. Gullies were cleared then, and I believe through flooding forums, we've had a real vigilance on clearing gullies. So on the 9th of March, the A329 Purley Rise, the system was fully cleansed between the Gatehouse and Beach Road. On the 7th of February, we cleansed gully flooding on bus stop in front of Rosebank. There were more issues with the drainage system, and further works are planned to be carried out there. And on the 18th of February in New Hill, Westridge Avenue, Hazel Road, we cleansed 13 blocks, gullies, and connections outside of our gully program. So where we see it and where we inspect it, where it needs doing, I've given you 3 examples direct within the Purley area, Matt, that we've addressed. Kimball from Basildon, we recently resurfaced Gardeners Lane, Upper Basildon. You state, Kimball, you believed it was in a satisfactory condition and serves a handful of houses. But Mariners Lane, Bradfield, and Parkwall Lane, Basildon, are disintegrating and full of potholes, so extremely dangerous in your view. So why waste money doing up roads which don't need it? I don't want to waste any money here, I get it, but we've got to work to a sort of principle of asset management. So we target maintenance at the right time to enable the right solution. So if you target lesser treatments carried at the right time, lesser treatments to the road, like Gardeners Lane in this example, might have looked satisfactory, but our view was there were problems coming, get ahead of it. Depending on the type of road surface, it can sometimes appear that we're treating roads in better condition than others. This is because, from an asset management perspective, it's more effective to apply lighter touch and lower cost treatment earlier, which is what I just said, before a road deteriorates to therefore need a much more expensive treatment. Parkwall Lane is scheduled to feature in the next highway improvement programme. That's over a 3-year period. And Mariners Lane and Parkwall Lane are also on 6 monthly highway safety inspections and are due to be inspected by the 14th of April. So any road surface defects identified during this inspection will be programmed for permanent carriageway repairs as necessary. They're on the list to review. Thank you for bringing them to our attention. But Gardeners Lane, we're probably trying to get ahead of problems there rather than wait for them to develop. David from Thatcham, why do we continue to have a high number of dangerous potholes on our roads? Well, it's a bad time of the year, where the roads actually at this time of year are probably at their worst. We've had those 3 months of rain. So David contends that many potholes remain unmarked for long periods. I would hope that you've been putting those on report of problem, David, but you challenge us to say, Can we help local people understand our regular road reviews? And you suggest a few things. I'm going to come up with a few things, David, that I think answer your point directly. We will look at publishing road inspection dates by road on our public interactive map. Is the one where you can actually put in where the pothole exists. We do publish on our online system log defects so residents can see what has already been recorded and we can avoid duplicate reports then. And via our online reporting system, we communicate the expected time for permanent repairs. So it's on our website. You can get that information, David. And once a repair is completed, we aim to inform whoever it was reported by. So there is a feedback loop there, David, but I think, addresses the points you made. The council should publish an expected date for permanent fix. We're looking at that. And the actual date a permanent fix is made, we've done that. So let's look at the broader picture on this, because we've spent 20 minutes or so on potholes, but rightly so, because it is the thing that people notice the most. We got a green national rating from the Department for Transport, meaning our processes, our responsiveness are considered effective. There are not many councils in England who got that green rating. Now, when you go over a pothole, you think, what's a green rating all about? I get it. But as you go over the border into Wiltshire, Oxfordshire, Hampshire, I don't feel proud of this. Their roads are worse than ours, doesn't make ours perfect. But there is a comparator there that I hope helps give my assurance that we're taking roads really, really seriously. And over the months ahead and into the summer months, you'll see improvement to our roads, resurfacing, potholes being fixed. As the dry weather comes along, we'll be catching up. We do accept residents judge us by the condition of the road outside their home. You need to report it and let our duty team will then go and look at it. We are looking for volunteers to help us test the new tools that we've got. So some people out there might want to come along on those. We committed to have the road signs cleaned. We have a lot of road signs, but I hope by now, after 2 years of this cleaning program, you're seeing them look better. There's still some I'd like to see done on the A339 up the hill towards Pingington Lane, and on the A4, particularly the Thiel to the M4, that bypass there. These are big signs. They shout at you that they're so dirty, but it takes a bit of traffic management then. You can't just go up to the sign and clean it because you're on a 2-lane sort of highway. Anyway, I've spent a long time on roads because I know it's important to people. I'm trying to give an assurance that it's important to us. My next area is travel. And I've got Cremy from Courage talking about residents on Long Lane in Courage within Cheveley and Courage Parish have been raising ongoing concerns with us, Thames Valley Police and the parish, for over 5 years regarding persistent and dangerous speeding. So we have been working closely with the parishes of Shoreham, Donington, Hermitage, Cheveley and Courage to tackle the concerns. In Hermitage, a new mobile speed camera was installed in 2025, a mobile speed camera. That's in operation. Now, a long lane in Courage, and we all know it, there aren't really any locations that meet the technical and safety requirements for placing a similar camera. But the parish's own recent data shows that speeds have been creeping up. We put out covert traffic radars to get an accurate picture of what's really happening. Once we have that baseline, the next step is to follow up with community speed watch activity, actually monitoring the speeds, all carried out in line with Thames Valley police procedures. This will strengthen the parish's request for more enforcement along that stretch. From my own point of view, and living in Thatcham, Bowling Green Road, some people may know it, we put in speed indicator devices there within the last year. They're the smiley faces if you're going under 30 and the grim face if you're going above. And we've actually found that that has reduced the traffic. And I'm saying to highways, let's put in more of those speed indicator devices because they seem to make a difference. I'm also saying to parishes, do you want to step up and tell us where you want them and we'll work with you to install them? Your parish council sometimes has reserves that they can use on that sort of thing. And that may be something here. We've got to refresh the carriageway roundels, which tell us the mileage on Long Lane, and adding new 30-mile-per-hour repeater signs. The aim is simple: make the speed limits much clearer for drivers and reinforce safer behaviour. So it's on our to-do list, it's on our watch list, and we're talking to the parishes about doing that, Premi, right now. I would expect and hope, and I'll keep my eye on it, that that gets tackled. Still on travel, a Hungerford resident, footpaths and towpaths need to be permanent, durable, and interconnected. Muddy, rutted, stony, uneven, side-sloping footpaths and towpaths make a disincentive to use them. I get it. And given the size of West Berkshire as a rural area, we've got over 700 miles, that's about 1,000 kilometres of public rights of way across the district. That's a very significant rural area, countryside area that's accessible. We have responsibility to keep the paths in a condition that's suitable for the way people use them. That varies depending how much they're used, but a lot of our rights of way run through very landscape. So we can't urbanize them by putting tarmac down and that sort of thing. You wouldn't want us to. So we can't change their character. Some paths are much more heavily used for safe walking, cycling routes, and become an important sort of access point for people living in the country. So we aim for a more all-weather surface, simpatico with countryside, and we look at different types of servicing that would work best. We produced a new rights of way improvement plan. It sets out our priorities. That's available via our website. And for identifying better services are needed and how we've got to secure funding to do that, as well as the money we spend ourselves. You also asked about the Kennet and Avon Canal towpath, and there is work going on there. It'll take years to do the whole of the Kennet and Avon canal, but there are schemes. There was a terrific scheme at Aldermaston. There's a scheme going on in the centre of Newbury at the moment, and we're working closely with several partners. We've got the Walk Wheel Cycle Trust, the Canal and River Trust, the Greenham Trust, and there's a long-term programme to upgrade the towpath in stages. What I've been pressing for, and I will get this, and Martin, please take a note of this, we will put out a plan for the whole length of the canal and what we might wish to do and expect to do, and an iterative process, 100 yards here, half a kilometre there, over a period of time. That's not only your money, your council tax residents' money, it's also grants we can get, even Greenham Common stepping up, and central government grants to improve those towpaths. Quite a bit's already been delivered. I mentioned Aldermaston Wharf, Ufton Lane, where the surface and accessibility have been significantly improved. There's even a nice little coffee shop, I think, right near Aldermaston Wharf. It's a nice place to go. Yes, in summary, we absolutely recognise the importance of these routes. We are improving them. It's a long haul. It's a big job, but it's in our plan and in our to-do list. But the takeaway for me is to make sure you know where we're doing that. A Newbury resident, with motor vehicle traffic being a well-known problem in Newbury, what actions are being taken to give people alternatives such as safe walking and cycling routes? Especially important on the routes to and from schools and nurseries, but it needs to be all safe for those who want to get out and about. Absolutely, I agree. Thank you for that. The council has an adopted local cycling and walking infrastructure plan. and a new rights of way improvement plan I mentioned on the previous answer. You can view these on our website. They guide the planning and delivery of improvements to local walking and cycling routes, centering on urban areas, including Newbury and Thatcham. Our 26-27 Works Highway Programme proposes improvements to pedestrian and cycle facilities on the highway in the Newbury area and across the district. We continue to make the case to central government for substantial additional funds to help deliver better connected networks, potential replacement pedestrian underpasses, for instance, with signal controlled crossings. It's a big job. It needs doing. You know, we put in cycleways, and where people do cycle, they appreciate them. Driving past them, if they're not well used, that doesn't mean they're not giving progress and help to those who do cycle. And there is a sense of, if people are cycling in their teens, can they continue to cycle into their 20s, 30s, 40s? Is the infrastructure there to support that? Safe walking as well. It's absolutely right. We're agreeing with you entirely. There are limitations on our funds that are available. We can't do this in a big bang. It has to be incremental. But everything I'm reading tonight, I'm agreeing with and saying, yes, we are tackling. We will always get criticism that, are we doing it quickly enough? That is determined by the number of staff we have available, the number of highways engineers in potholes, the number of people we have available from our contractors, the amount of money we have. I have to say that because it's a fact. But everything you're saying is hitting the mark on what we want to do. Gaynor from Great Sheffield talks about, would we consider giving more consideration to villages? We've got work going on at the moment on viable villages and what we need to do to improve the villages. It's a tough call, Gaynor. It is a tough call. We've got, if you talk about buses, you talk about access, you talk about pubs, you talk about the hospitality sector. The villages need help and support. Small things we've been doing to help villages. We put little pop-up libraries within, I think there's now 6 going to be in place, where the village has access to books that they can take out from the library, the pop-up local library. That is a small but important part of reducing people's isolation in villages. And our librarians go out to these and they talk to members of the public about what sort of books they want. Small things. We have a bus service improvement delivery plan, which we're actively progressing. I'll look to Martin to put something out on buses in terms of improved routes and new bus routes that are coming into being. No, not having a bus service at all on a Sunday. The last bus back to the village on a Saturday is 17:45 from Newbury. Gaynor, this is a frustration. And it's almost self-defeating that people move out of the villages because they haven't got this, and it makes the village less viable. So we have hundreds of wonderful villages. We've got to support them. Village schools are under pressure. The roles on schools, we could have maybe having 1 or 2 children coming into schools. And so we've got a situation which I'll be quite upfront with you about. In many respects, people are worried about building new houses in villages and resist it. And then because we don't build those new houses, people move out, they don't get bigger, they get smaller. And the pub closes and the post office closes, long close, the grocery shop closes. It's a self-perpetuating vicious cycle. And this viable villages work we're doing is to try and address that. There's a big conversation to be had about it, frankly. And I think we probably need, and this is the difficulty, we run something called the Community Forum. And those community forums talk about the issues that are important to people. We need people to turn up to those so we can understand what's important to them. And we have launched this week, and you'll have seen it within your council tax invoice bill, that we've launched a resident survey. Gaynor, this is exactly the sort of thing we need residents to tell us about. That survey is about our services, and it's open for about 10 weeks, I believe. Beth is here as well. He's just nodding to me. We need your feedback. We're taking it from here as well, Gaynor, so this won't be ignored. But viable villages are vital to this beautiful rural area we live in. I'm through transport. I'm going at a pace, but Martin's telling me he's had something in, because we're live. As we live stream, we pick up chat and we pick up questions. So Martin, what have I got there?
Thank you. We've got a couple of questions first in on the Kennet Valley SEMH, which is the school. We've got just somebody asking, this is Safi watching on Facebook. Hi, are we getting close to having the Kennet Valley SEMH school returning full?
I'm expecting that open very soon, and it is disappointing what's happened there, Safi. I'm not sure it's open before the Easter holiday, but should be open after that. We've worked really hard. We've got to get the staff retrained, some extra training for the staff at Kennet Valley. We can't have that happening again there. So when it opens, you'll have assurance that that situation is resolved. So Safi, I expect that open very, very soon.
Very good. And we had the same question from Hayley watching on Facebook as well. So Hayley, hopefully that answers your question. We've had one from Charlotte, who lives on Lambourne High Street. So it's going back to sort of traffic and travel. Charlotte says, we now have extremely heavy vehicle traffic through traveling at 30 miles per hour, which is too fast and is causing even more road damage as well as house vibration. Plus cars exceed the limit too. Could they have a 20 mile per hour zone in the village for high use roads?
This is a fascinating thing, and I'm glad you've mentioned it. Part of our plans were to introduce 20 mile per hour speed limits in some of the estates and urban areas, but we said we'd only do it where people supported it. And looking around, we've had 3 consultations now in Thatcham, Bucklebury, and Caldash and Cheveley. It's finally balanced as to whether we go ahead with that. If we do single roads down to 20 mile per hour, I know the road. It's a you know, that Lambourne High Street is a very nice area. Got a very good library. I'm sorry, I'm just plugging that, but it has. We have to do quite a lot of testing on the speeds, and lorries going through there. I'd hope they're rather just delivering, but they may be actually using it to get through the town. I think what I'm saying is we need to do tests on that particular road. I don't think necessarily we'll talk necessarily about blanket 20 mile per hour in Lambourne, but let's pick that up separately. So it's Charlotte, wasn't it?
That was, yes, that was Charlotte.
So Charlotte, what I'll say to you now is, if you can get, my recommendation to you is get a petition up, maybe only 20, 30 names. We're launching a new highways improvement group of councillors and highways engineers. They will receive that and will have to take that seriously. That's going to be one of the ways that residents can ask us to tackle some of the highways issues. I call it the Highways Improvement Group, and it will be meeting. I'm putting it into place from May, such that you can bring these issues to it, and they will have to address them and explain to you what next steps might be. So that won't be forgotten either.
Right, we've got Law. Law's also on Facebook. Law asks, has there been an independent investigation into why 2 children are costing the council taxpayer £2 million per year?
Well, I don't know what investigation you would expect us to do, Law. This is a national issue of the cost of looking after children, high needs children, children with a lot of needs, some children needing 4-to-1 attendance at all times. And yes, it costs a lot of money, but it costs other councils the same. It isn't something that we're being ripped off in isolation, and I shouldn't use terms like ripped off, but it doesn't look like good value for money. The key and why we jump in is those children are at a real risk. Living at home, they're at risk of damaging themselves or others. A 13, 14, 15-year-old person, young person, can be quite dangerous if they have issues. You have to manage that. And it's an area where I believe the government should look at, because I think there's quite a lot of profiteering going on. The profits, those organisations who run those care homes, which are inspected, so I'm not saying they're unregulated, but there is a market there that people are taking advantage, companies are taking advantage of, not just of West Berkshire, many councils up and down the country. So it's not something we could investigate in isolation law, but it is something the government should be looking at, and we're pressing them to do so, to say there's some real profiteering going on here. We need those facilities for young people, but I've said before, and I'll say it again here, there are 25 residents, children, adults, older adults, 25 of them costing this council about £13 million a year. Very high needs, very high payments as well. And that's part of the problem we're wrestling with. So, Laura, that's not a perfect answer, I know that, but I don't think an investigation will do anything at a local level.
Right, Gary on Facebook is asking, this is back onto potholes, why we're not hitting our time frames from repairs. This stems from a pothole which he says has taken 60 days to fix, because we fixed it and then had to go back and fix it again.
So Gary, it seems like it failed after a temporary fix. I would not expect a permanent fix to have failed within 6 months. The failure rates are quite low. You might think I would say that. If you let us know where that was, we'll look into it tomorrow. I don't understand why it should be failing right through for 6 months worth. So please, if you on the chat tell us exactly where it is, we'll pick it up tomorrow. Martin can refer it tomorrow to Highways.
Okay, thank you. We've got Helen Simpson in Hungerford. And I'll add to Helen says, I would like to thank the Highways team for doing a great job recently in Hungerford, Newtown. We had some serious sized potholes, and the team have done a great job, even adding more jobs to their list, even though they weren't initially recorded on Report a Problem. Well done.
It's nice to hear from you, Helen, and I know how much hard work you do for Hungerford, so great to have a comment from you, Helen.
And similarly from Josh on Facebook, credit to the Report a Problem system, it works a treat. Every time I have posted an issue, it's fixed within the week or next, and a follow-up email sent.
Okay, so some's working, and it's good to hear it's working. Where it isn't, you need to let us know so we can improve. Improvement is what this council is all about.
Thank you. And the only other question so far was from Ellie on Facebook, who had another question about sort of Kennet Valley.
Okay,
which I think
and I think I picked it up.
Yes.
I'm going back now because I've got a series of questions on flooding. I'm 15 minutes away from 7 o'clock, so I'm going to go through this. I've got one on flooding. What is the council doing regarding flood mitigation? Simon lives in Shore, and the River Lambourne has reached very high levels. We've been on red alert for flooding issues right through this winter. I think we might have got away with it. I hope I haven't spoken too soon. I'm also the chairman of the fire service. We've been on red alert there across Berkshire and West Berkshire. You're talking about flooding around Walton Way, Riverside Lane and St. Richard's Road over the past 3 years. I've got a long answer, which I'm going to have to truncate here. This has been worrying for the residents in Shore. It is complicated because it comes from lots of different sources: rivers, groundwater, surface water, sewers, and even the highway network with runoff. The climate change is making these events more frequent. We're part of the Lambourne Valley Flood Forum, bringing together parish councils, the Environment Agency, Thames Water, and community representatives. It meets regularly to share information. If money is tight, would the council consider working with local residents? And the answer is absolutely yes. Partnership working is already a big part of what we do, particularly with the parishes. We collaborate with community flood wardens, local groups. We're open to working with residents on practical mitigation initiatives, whether that's identifying problem areas, supporting community maintenance. My advice to you is use the parish council, Simon. Get them to engage with us. I meet the parishes regularly. We have a parish district conference coming up. And if somebody from Shore comes along and wants to talk about flooding to me, we'll pick that up on the night. Feed that into the parish. And, that is a route where we can work together. I'm sorry it seems to be taking so long, but it's not a simple fix. But the flood forums and the flooding mitigation, we work with the Environment Agency, we work with Thames Water, National Highways, Canal and River Trust. Let's get something going specifically for Shore. I'm not saying we're not doing anything, but with the parish council, let's raise up that awareness. I've got waste recycling, and Aaron from Beach Hill talks about why is the black rubbish collected every 3 weeks. We were not recycling enough, and we were paying more and more for getting rid of waste. Our recycling rates were not good. Before the change, we offered more black bin capacity than any other council in Berkshire, but we were finding many of them half empty. Many of the black bins half empty. Others, we found about 22% of the bin was food. We provide, and I hope people use, and I know people use, the food caddy. That's collected weekly. And I still get people writing to me saying the bins are going to stink in the summer. Rats will be everywhere. Not if you use the food caddy. That is what it's there. That's called your putrescible waste, putrid waste, that we can get rid of weekly. So we had to also look at our finances and say, what savings can we make? And that we could use for other things that hopefully will improve residents' lives. And this is significant. This could be £500,000 a year. But as importantly, we also believe we needed to get ahead of what is likely to come in, a tax on incineration. They call it now energy from waste, and they burn the waste. The government is talking about a tax that could cost West Berkshire £1.4 million a year if we don't reduce the amount of waste we send to those sort of facilities. Now, since we moved to the 3 weekly bin collection, black bin waste is down by over 1,000 tonnes, 15% reduction. Dry recycling is up 6%, dry recycling, paper, cardboard. Food waste recycling is up 22%. Fly tipping has not increased. We are watching that really carefully. It's shown a small decrease. There are some areas, and I know people are going to flag them up to me, that look a bit shoddy. They're not new necessarily, and we need to get onto them. Our recycling rate is provisionally 55% for 25-26, our highest ever. That, I think, is good for many different reasons. And I do know that there are people struggling to adjust. There are those, and we put quite a few larger bins out. One for my neighbour who has medical waste. So we are receptive to looking and working with people who've got specific difficulties on the 3 weekly black bin collection. I'm also hearing, though, that people saying, I'm okay. I now do a bit more recycling and I don't have anything in the bin that is likely to smell or attract rats or whatever. So I think overall, and I know it's really difficult for people to embrace a change like this, but where they are, it's helping us financially, it's helping our recycling rates. Richard from Hungerford, how is food waste processed and what happens after it has been processed? And all the food waste we collect in West Berkshire goes to our in-vessel composting facility at Padworth. It's processed in controlled conditions and turned into high quality PAS 100 certified soil conditioner. And that finished product is then used by local farmers and landscapers, and we make it available to residents during free giveaways throughout the year. And next giveaway is this coming weekend, the 21st, 22nd of March from 10 till 4. You bring proof of residency, your own bags or containers, and take away. And I've done it myself. It's wonderful. It's very, very dusty. It's terrific, very rich in minerals for your garden. It's there. That's your waste coming back onto your garden, the natural cycle of things. And that's what happens to our food waste. We've got a short video on our council YouTube channel that walks you through the whole process. And finally on this one, Aaron from Beach Hill, why do I have to pay extra for my garden waste to be collected? It's a discretionary service. We were not comfortable at charging, and we've reduced the charge for people in bands under council tax band D, increased it for a bit for those over council tax band D. We still are a lot less than other Berkshire authorities, and it is, as I say, something, Aaron, you could choose not to take up. It's discretionary. So we know that people value the convenience curbside garden waste collections, and we're keeping the service efficient, reliable, and fair for those who choose to use it. Tough one. Up and down the country, councils are having to charge for things that are discretionary, that they don't have to supply, and we're not immune from that. I'm then going to quickly go on to the housing and economy. I'm in my last 10 minutes or so. Alexander from Hungerford, you may now be in the position to publish the Social Housing Affordable Housing Report concerning the long-term population needs in our constituency. And yes, we may be. The last majority house owning generation were the baby boomers. And he gives us a long background, but his thrust is he's looking for a response, providing what we're doing around housing locally. It's fair to say, Alexander, that we have not built enough houses in West Berkshire for the demand that exists. 12 years or so ago, we agreed that there should be houses built in Sandalford within Newbury. Not one of those houses have been built. So the changing demographic and the increasing vulnerability faced by residents whose incomes is primarily based on state pension, you've raised a number of queries there. I can't answer them all in enough detail here tonight, but I can say we do all we can to support residents in housing needs. And we provide a variety of affordable housing provision through the planning process. We provide temporary accommodation. We did get the number of children in bed and breakfast down to 0. It's crept up again. We're constantly chasing that. We look to get 30% to 40% of housing as affordable. There is not the appetite at the moment. You've got to look at the macro picture. There's not the appetite at the moment to build houses. There is the economic issue there. The Labour government came in saying they wanted to build 300,000 houses a year. They're not getting anywhere near it. And so we need some national progress to get local progress. You might be aware that there are 317 units going to be built on the old Kennet Centre. That will give us some economic regeneration. And we'll speak to another question I've got about employment here. I think your question, Alexander, is extremely viable, extremely important. And I'm going to pass that question on through Martin to our portfolio holder in charge of housing, and she will write to you with a more detailed answer than I can give in 2 or 3 minutes this evening. I hope that's of some value to you, because you pose a lot of important points and you're clearly well versed in this area. So let's engage with you on that.
I was going to say, we've got 3 more questions in from Facebook, which we'll try and take before we close.
Okay, let's take those, and I'll be quite quick, and then I've got a couple to wrap with.
Okay, so this is Nath from Facebook, just asking when we are going to address the huge issues within social services, which he notes is sort of having an impact on both children and our budgets.
And he's right. We have to put more money into early intervention. What does that mean? It sounds like a buzzword phrase. Can we get to families who are in trouble earlier? Can we manage their issues before they become so difficult and large and serious that they cost us a lot more money? Prevention. That's where we have to go to. It's been an area for years that councils have said, I won't do as much of that, and it rebounds on us significantly. We've got to get into families in distress earlier. Social services issues with children and families, very important we get to those earlier. But at the other end of the scale, with adults getting older, the demographics, they have an old aging population, you've got more pressures at the 85, 90-year-old, the last few years of life. And there's work going on there in transformation. There's work going in there to get people to stay in their home longer. I can't go into that now because I'm running out of time, but watch this space because we're working on these issues. What's my next one?
Sean on Facebook is asking, where can we find the ins and outs of the West Berkshire Council finances? As everywhere you look, you can't find the actual figures, just estimates.
Well, you surprised me. Our budget should have been published and was published. I will check what's online because I'm surprised to hear that our finances are not something you can find. So if you want to leave your email address, I will make sure that we come back to you and tell you where you can find perhaps the information you're looking for.
And the final question we'll take tonight from Facebook is asking about what the council can do to support vulnerable adults left without mental health support, and specifically should the council threshold for support be reviewed.
There's work going on in central government. There's new white papers coming out. Again, it's a question with a long answer, and I'd rather take your email address and get Heather Codling to come back to you, because I'm really running the clock down. So very important question, not going to be ignored, but I don't have time to go into it now, and I'm sorry about that. I'm going to conclude, because I've got about two or 3 minutes to go, with local government reorganisation. And there are questions in about that. Purley residents asked about can they have a vote to say no to Reading taking over West Berkshire? Let me just bring you up to date, please. There is some consolidation going on with council areas across the country, to the south of us in Hampshire, to the east of us in Surrey. Oxford were asked if their district and county council and city council wished to form a different type of council and more than one council. And the Vale of Whitehorse and South Oxford district councils came to West Berkshire Council, to me, and said, would you be interested in a new council of that whole area, including Wantage, Didcot, Thame, Henley, with Newbury, Thatcham, Hungerford becoming a new council area? We can see benefits in that. I've been out to talk to parishes about this. We can see real benefits. We're quite a small council. That makes you feel close to it, but it makes it harder for us to have economies of scale. It makes it harder for us to not have single points of failure. So I give the example of our planning enforcement team. It's two and a half people here. So two people and a part-time person. One can be on holiday, one's off sick, one's out on a case. You don't have anybody in that planning department, enforcement department, to actually react to a planning enforcement issue. In a larger council, you could have half a dozen, 6, 7, 8 in that department. They may all be busy, of course, but they'll have capacity to react fast. You wouldn't have, in 3 areas like that, 3 directors in charge of adult social care, 3 directors in charge of children and family services and education. You wouldn't have 3 chief executives. You start to get some economies of scale. You'd start to really see opportunities within those areas of building housing. And in West Berkshire, we have a lot of land that's called national landscapes. Areas used to be areas of outstanding natural beauty, hard to build houses on, so we cram them into Newbury and Thatcham. Whereas in a new council to the north of us, some areas of which used to be in Berkshire has more land that is grey land, if you like, that can be built on. So there's a lot of benefit from a larger council. At the same time as we were developing that and working with the Vale and South Oxford, Reading, which has an aspiration to become a city, which has an aspiration to grow, came along and went to government and said it makes sense for Tilehurst, Holybrook and Calcott to be that side of the M4 to be in the Reading council area. I disagree, and I know that many of the residents there do not wish to be part of the Reading Borough Council. So we're fighting for that not to happen within this new council that may emerge, which we're calling Ridgeway. We'll know about that by June, July at the latest. We'll know if the government, who are the people who will decide, the body that will decide, are in agreement. There are other plans. There's a one council for Oxford where the county council simply takes over the district councils. So if we know in July, we will be able to then, if it's a goer, if it's going ahead, we will hopefully still keep Tilehurst and Purley and Calcott, Holybrook, because we want to, because they're important to us. There is a consultation at the moment that is going on that is asking people, what do they think? And I want you to reply to that. Where can they find that, Beth, please?
I put a link in the comments.
There's a link in the comments, and I've got Purley resident, I've got Keith from Tilehurst. Please go in to that consultation and make your views known, particularly in Tilehurst, Purley, Calcott, Holybrook. Get your neighbours to make their points known. I've been to parish council meetings out there. I've said we don't want to lose you. We need you, and I said this at the parish council meetings, we need you to say no, we do not want to go into Reading Borough. Martin, I'm past my 7 o'clock deadline. I've tried my best to cover as many of the questions. I think there were 1 or 2 we didn't have time for, but I'm grateful to everybody who has worked with us and come along and asked questions. The whole ethos of this council is continuous improvement. Improve our roads, improve our schools, improve our libraries, improve our adult social care, the way we look after people, improve everything we do. You come to us, you tell us what's going wrong. Our commitment is to try and improve that. Thanks ever so much to everybody who's attended, and I wish you a good evening.